And welcome everyone to another edition of Quiet Please, the Golf Podcast. I am Alan Depew. I am your host for the next 45, 50, maybe even an hour. We'll stretch this out because we got a lot to talk about. And joining us on the panel, as always, the Mr. Reliable, Andy Hydorn. Greetings, sir.
Welcome. Nice to be here.
Welcome. A sighting that we have not seen in forever, dropping our age demographics down once again. The prettiest podcaster in golf, Christian Nazamus. It's so good to see you again.
Been a minute, boys. It's been probably 2 months at least, right?
Yeah, where you been?
Traveling the country. I just got a puppy, so I've been dealing with that as well. So life just coming full circles for me at the moment.
You know that's a precursor. Just throwing that out there, Allison, if you're listening. Anyway, and he'll be here just momentarily. Boston Bob Baldessari, hailing from the bourbon country, and I'll just chime in, Andy, with it's wicked, guys, it's wicked good.
I'll be right
but anyway,
there.
Hey, we are excited to have a special guest, Mr. Hydorn. I will allow you the distinction of making the introduction. Rounding out our panel tonight is...
Yes, we want to roll out a warm welcome for Mike Booker. Mr. Booker is a true legend of Texas amateur golf. I've been the victim of his good play many times. And just a couple of stats. This is going to be like Phil Mickelson listening to Tiger Woods get introduced on the first tee here. But Mike's won 14 Texas Golf Association titles.
Jesus.
He's won 9 HGA Houston City titles. He's a member of the Texas Golf Hall of Fame, inducted in 2019. He's the only golfer ever to be named the Athlete of the Year by the Houston Sports News. Mike's played in 14 USGA events, which is just unfathomable. It's such an accomplishment, and 5 R&A events on top of that. He played his college golf at the University of Houston, was a 1977 All-American. And for those of you who know just how good the University of Houston was back in those days, it was the preeminent program in college golf. And not only all of that, Mike Booker is a true gentleman of the game. He's, as they say, he's nice to everybody he plays with. He's nice to mice. He's a true gentleman and a great golfer as well. But we're really happy to have you on the show here tonight, Mike. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is the new book that you've just written and released called The Tournament Golfer's Playbook. So welcome to the Quiet Please podcast.
Well, Andy, great. Thanks, guys. What a great introduction. I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now.
You should.
Feel better about yourself than Alan's golf game, or?
Yeah. Oh, come on now.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Are we going there already?
Hey, I've been away.
So, Mike, tell us a little bit about the origin of the idea and finally the execution of you being able to put this book together and offer it out to the public.
It's a great question. I get that question a lot, and it's so weird, Andy. I had never on my radar to write a book. It's nothing I ever wanted to do. I'm a financial advisor here in Houston. I've written a couple chapters for other books, where they've gotten advisors to write a chapter, and I thought that was arduous. I mean, it took me I redid it and redid it and redid it. It was just one chapter. So I never had a real desire to write a book. But about 3 or 4 years ago, Coach Dismuke at the University of Houston gave me a call. And he said, Mike, I've got this really talented group, but we are not winning tournaments. In fact, we're not finishing nearly as high as we'd expect to do if we didn't even play well. We're just I don't know what the problem is. Would you come talk to him? And of course, I was flattered and honored to do that. So I sat down at my desk and I started to write down things that I thought were important to be successful in tournament golf. Understanding what you can control, what you can't control, the process as opposed to the result, being your own best friend, taking responsibility, learning how to forgive yourself. These were all things that I thought were really important. I hadn't given them a lot of thought to write them down before. So I sat down in front of these young men. There were, I think, 15 or 17 of them. And the first thing I did was I sat down in front of them. I said, guys, I said, you all, I'm sure, think that you're tournament golfers. I said, but I think maybe you're just golfers who play tournaments. And they kind of looked at each other and they couldn't really figure out what the hell I was talking about. And so I went into all those things that I just mentioned that make up a tournament golfer versus just a golfer who shows up and plays tournaments. And I think I kind of connected with them, and they went out about 3 weeks later and they won a big tournament. So I thought, wow, maybe I did connect after all. Maybe I've got something here. So I started to put together, kind of expand my outline a little bit. And I thought maybe I'd put together a pamphlet, give it to Andy, give it to buddies, and maybe they get something out of it. And I kept writing and writing, and it got to where I thought, well, maybe I can make a little bitty book out of this thing. I don't know. And it kept writing, and it got bigger. And so I went online to investigate, how many golf books there are. Well, in case you didn't know, there's 60,000 golf books. So that was like full stop. The world does not need another golf.
I only have 50,000 of them.
Right. So I thought, what am I thinking? This is a dumb idea. And then I dug a little deeper, and I saw that, a lot of the books on golf were on the mental side, which was my interest. But I noticed of all the mental approaches to golf, those golf books were all written by sports psychologists. And I thought, gosh, how many of them have stood over a 5-foot putt to qualify for the USAM? And maybe some of them. How many have had to par the last hole in the tour school to get their tour card? And I thought, well, maybe, and I got nothing against sports psychologists, but I thought, well, maybe it's time for someone who's actually played tournament golf to write about tournament golf. And really, in the book, I write about a lot of my failures. I made an effort not to make the book about me, because I'm nobody, but I played with a lot of really great players. And so I wrote the book. And it's about 130 pages or so. So it's not a big book. I wrote small chapters so younger people could, take it and read a chapter and then, think on it and come back, read it again real quick, read it again easily. And I am still in shock. It's been 13 months ago it came out. It's been #1 on Amazon golf books. Back in February, it was hit #1. It hasn't left the bestsellers list on Amazon since it came out. So it bounces around. Obviously, they all bounce around. So, of course, I never look at that. I don't ever look at that.
No.
Because
You're not a scoreboard watcher, are you?
Anyway, so it's been a blast. I just had a high school coach email me today. They're ordering 50 of them. He wants to give it to the golf team, and then he wants to have copies on, on campus for the teams as they come through. And we've had, 3 or 4 Division I golf teams that picked it up, and they're running with it. So I didn't ever plan to do any of this. And so that's been the biggest surprise and the most fun. I'm having a blast with it.
Yeah, one of the things for me that struck me was as you're going through the book and reading it, a lot of it's about mindset and your process and your kind of points of view on what it is that you're supposed to be thinking about, what it is that you're supposed to be doing. But I love the fact that you touched on the etiquette of the tournament player as well. And people never talk about that. And I thought that it's such a valuable thing for people to be able to read and then kind of self-reflect on who am I in this equation? Like, where do I fit in? Am I that tournament golfer? Am I just that golfer who plays in tournaments? How do I act? How do I carry myself? Like, I thought that was some of the more fascinating stuff in the book that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah, that's, and that's the first time really someone's brought that up, talking about that, because my whole thing, the Texas Golf Association bought 240 of the books, and they gave them out to all the kids, girls and boys at the state junior this year. And they asked me to speak at the welcome dinner that night. And what I told them was that, look, when things are going bad, and they will go bad from time to time, you're still a tournament golfer. you're not, if you're going to be a tournament golfer, you're going to be a tournament golfer. But what is a tournament golfer? Tournament golfer really has no excuses. They take responsibility for every shot they hit. They don't have they don't really live in a world of good breaks and bad breaks. The golfer who plays tournaments, as I call them, they have a golf bag full of excuses. They don't take responsibility for their shots. They would love to tell you if if you can hang around for an extra hour after the round, all the bad breaks they got and all the bad things that happen. But the tournament golfer doesn't have time for that. Tournament golfer is more clinical. Tournament golfer is like an emergency room doctor. He hasn't got time to hear your background. He just wants to take care of business because he hasn't got time to get, to play into distractions. And so what I told these junior golfers, I said, look, things are going bad. I said, you could leave this room tonight, a tournament golfer, you make that decision. That's a decision you make. There's no barrier to entry. But that also means that when, you start to want to throw a club because things are going badly, you don't throw that club, and because that's not what a tournament golfer does. And so what I really wanted to communicate to these young people and everybody who reads the book is that it's how you carry yourself. Everybody knows that things are going to go bad, especially in tournament golf. Your butt is hanging out there for everybody to see, and your failure is out there for everybody to see. And so we all get that. And the tournament golfer, you just got to roll with it and understand going in that it's not a fair deal, and you're going to get beat up. And the question is, how are you going to handle it?
It's so funny that you say that too, because playing D1 golf at Niagara, you see it all the time, right? From different kids, whoever show up. And I love the quote that Brooks always says, Brooks Koepka, whenever he goes to a major, you're playing against 20 guys. That's a tournament golfer in my mindset, right? Because he's not going up against 140 guys, he's going up against 20, right? But you would see kids in college too that's the same way, right? If you go to a tournament of a field of 100, you're ultimately playing against 15 guys at most, maybe. But you also have guys too that have that mentality where I've played with guys who threw their clubs. I also did it when I was a junior. I've done it. I think we all done it. But it gets to a point too where it's like that mindset changes, and it changed for me when I really hit my stride in high school, where I knew that golf was going to be something. And I think after that happened, now it's that mentality like you just alluded to, where I don't have time for fun and games. I don't care if I shot 66. I don't care if I shot 86. I was going to the range directly after, because even if I shot 66, I'm like, okay, I hit 5 bad drives today. I want to fix that. That didn't sit well with me. That's, and I think that's why a lot of these junior golfers that I've even had the fortune of talking to, and I'm sure you have as well, that I think that's where they lack a lot. They don't want to, I don't know if some of them, at least from my experience, they don't want to put that extra step in. But I think if they do that, it's only going to be a great deal for them moving forward.
Well, that's a great point. A lot of the concepts in the book were, I thought so much about when a high school player picks up the book, or even a college player, I thought so much about the fact that, man, if I had somebody talking to me about these things when I was in high school, it would have been so amazing it would have accelerated things. And somebody who really had that, in a way, I've had one author of a magazine article did that. He said, this is really kind of a tough love thing. And it sort of is. It's just saying that I don't have enough. I want to be efficient in the way I think, and I haven't got time for all the BS around me. And even if it's my own BS, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. My swing coach growing up, he always told me, and I live by this motto today, let your sticks do the talking. I always go to the course with my mouth shut, just ready to play. And I hate losing. So I'm always competitive, obviously. And I've lived by that motto since I was 12 years old. And I don't care if I'm going out on a normal Saturday or Sunday that's having fun, or if it's a tournament that we play in, you always want to win. And I think that's the difference between people who are tournament golfers and people who aren't tournament golfers.
That's a big part of it. I'll never forget. I played. Lindy Miller was at Oklahoma State. Lindy played in the Masters, played on tour for a number of years, was #1 amateur in the world. He was at Oklahoma State. I was at Houston. We played in the All-America together, and he played the first. I guess it was even par, and he was kind of frustrated. And then he birdied 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Birdied the last 5 holes to shoot 67. And I'll never forget this. He walked off the green, and his guys, David Edwards was there, his teammates, and they were, and how'd it go? And he said 67, and he didn't even break his stride. He kept walking. And I thought to myself, well, no, it wasn't just a 67, dude. You birdied the last 5 holes. You were so clutching. I know what I would have said. Well, let me tell you all about this. I birdied the last 5 holes. I would have, and that's the difference. I was still a golfer who plays tournaments, and Lindy was a tournament golfer, period. And that's just one example. It's just so clinical. It's just not, it's not buying into all the crap around.
Right.
Mike, I got so many things to say. Segues coming from every direction here. So Christian mentioned, let your sticks do the talking, which the guy I grew up utmost respect for, unfortunately passed away. Mike Wynn, University of Houston grad, early 70s, played the tour. And that's all he ever used to say to me. Just let your sticks do the talking. Let your sticks do the talking. I don't know if all he raved about Houston. He goes, I was there he goes, I went to Houston to learn because it was a powerhouse and I was getting ready for the tour. I don't know if he was when he would have been there in relation to when you would have been there. Obviously, he's much older than you, but
yeah, I met him, and I knew him, but not as a friend, but I knew who he was. He was a few years ahead of me.
Right, hell of a player.
Yep.
I mean, he could do more shit with a golf ball than I'd love to tell you just some of the stories that just standing in the golf shop watching him do some stuff with a golf ball. But you said something that I want to jump on also, and first thing that comes to my mind, because my mind tends to race. That's why my initials are ADD. There was a line back in Andy's laughing.
You've never used that before. You got to throw that out more often.
Well, I got to anyway. Anyways, there was a line in The Greatest Game Ever Played. Okay, I'm sure everybody saw that movie. Everybody's watched every golf movie, but they talk about Varden. He says there's only two types of play. I brought up the quote. There's only two types of players: those who keep their nerves under control and win championships, and those who do not. And as you're talking about how the hows and whys that you wrote that book, that screams exactly of that quote. Now I don't know if he actually said it or if they just associated it, but is that really what I mean? Is that why you wrote the book? Just to teach those guys to?
I just wanted to, honestly, I really wanted to just leave something behind. And once I started writing it down on an outline, I went like, wow, I had never thought of all these things and organizing them in the way I did that. And so, and this concept, I mean, the concept of staying in the present and having a process, obviously that's not my idea, but I wanted to give it an emphasis. Some of the things that were my ideas that you may think you're a tournament golfer just because you're playing a tournament, and you're not. And here's why. And so that's what something the book I think was different about the book is that we're just presenting, tournament golfer, you got 10-foot putt on the last hole to win the tournament. A tournament golfer, in my view, understands that the ball may not go in the hole. First of all, they understand they're going to work through their process, the pre-shot routine. They're going to read the putt, how hard I got to hit it, what's the line I'm going to hit it on, and then they know that all they can do is hit the best putt they can hit, and that's really all they're thinking about. The golfer who plays tournaments, he's already checked his phone, especially nowadays. Checked his phone. He knows if I make this putt, I win the tournament. He knows that right away, and he's thinking, man, that trophy's going to look pretty awesome in my study. And my girlfriend's going to think I am awesome if I win this big tournament. And all these result-oriented sort of things that totally screw up the process of making your best stroke. And so that's the big difference. I mean, I tell a story in the book about Kenny Perry in 1999, I think it was. He had made $37 million on tour. He was known as the greatest player to never win a major. He goes to the Masters, and his two parts of his process are: number one, he was going to be patiently aggressive, which I guess means not go for sucker pins. And then he also wasn't going to look at the leaderboards, which of course the Masters and Augusta is famous for. So he goes and he comes in the last round. He hits it 6 inches on 16, the par 3, takes a 2-stroke lead. 2 more holes left in the tournament. He's not looked at a scoreboard the whole week. From 16 tee box to green to 17 tee box, he looks up for the first time and he sees he's got a 2-stroke lead, and he tells his caddy, par, and we win the Masters. So all week long he'd been processed, right? Patiently aggressive, not looking at scoreboard, just sticking to his knitting. And for the first time, he switched, by his own admission in an interview. He said, I switched away from my process into results. And of course, we all know what happened. He went bogey, and then Angel Cabrera beat him when he made another bogey in the playoff. And so it's that concept of keeping yourself from getting into results-oriented thinking, and a lot of staying in the present. A lot of that has to do with breathing techniques you can use, but catching yourself jumping ahead or jumping behind, missed that 2-foot putt back there and you're still thinking about that and you knock it into the trees off the tee the next hole. Al Geiberger, the opposite of that. Al Geiberger, way back in 77 at Colonial in Memphis, shot the 59. He was Mr. 59, which is outrageous. And I got a transcript of the interview afterward. And one of the first things he got asked was, what was it like writing the score down, 7 under, 8 under, 9 under, 10 under? What was that like, Al? And he said, are you out of your mind? He said, when you got a round like that going, you don't even keep score. You just keep playing. And if you think about it, when the guys shoot these ridiculously low scores, guy shoots 59, a 60. If you go back and play a lot of the video, they will often tell you, I didn't realize I had this putt for 58 or 59. I didn't even know it. And people say, how can that be? You knew you were playing great. But when you're in that zone, which really is presence, all it is staying in the present, not getting ahead of you, it's amazing how many people have said, no, I had no idea. They were shocked when they told me I shot 59 or 60 or whatever it is. People don't get that. And they're just in the present.
Even when you look at Tiger back in the day too, when he's won all these, like when he won the US Open by 16, I think it was. The one thing I always go back and I watch that too, because it sounds corny to say it, but I do, because you literally watch him, his mindset, his integrity, nothing changes literally from Thursday to Sunday. He could be up 20 shots, but he's still pissed off if he parred 15 or whatever, and that's why he is just, I'm going to say one of the greatest of all times, but I know people think that he's the greatest, but I still think Jack's up there. But Jack's the same way.
I'm with you. What I really piss people off is when they say Tiger was the greatest, I say, so he's definitely top 3. Absolutely
100%.
top 3. And then they just their hair goes on fire. So that's the part I enjoy the most.
Exactly.
That plays right into the old hot seat later on.
Uh-oh.
So Mike, I have a question for you. So you are obviously a successful junior golfer growing up in California to a certain extent, and then you had your success in college. At what point did you cross over from being a golfer that plays in tournaments to a tournament golfer?
Well, the truth of the matter is, it was well after college. I was an All-American. We won the NCAA. I had all these things. I got my PGA Tour card. I was the youngest player on the PGA Tour when I was 22. And I was still not a tournament golfer. I had all these guys going through high school and college. I was really perplexed because there were guys that I didn't think did anything. I thought I putted as well as they did. I thought I hit the ball as well. And they would, fairly consistently beat me. And I didn't really know what it was. And I couldn't observe and see what it was. But there was a kind of a light bulb went off when I was probably in my mid to late 20s. When I realized I was a golfer who plays tournaments. I was showing up. I was having excuses. I wasn't taking responsibility. If I hit it right down the middle and it goes in a divot, I'm not going to call that a bad break. I'm going to say I hit it there. I don't know. Did I aim for it? No, but I hit it there. No one else hit it there. I have to take responsibility for it. So rather than spend all my time, guys, look at this. I'm in a divot. Everything's bad. It was like, watch me now. Watch how good a shot I can hit out of this. Watch me, and not get into the feeling sorry for myself type of thing. So I had that for quite a long time. Like that's why there aren't very many tournament golfers. I could make a case of Sergio Garcia, not really a tournament golfer under my definition. Obviously, super successful. And lovely player. I mean, I love his game, everything about his game. But he's always got excuses, and he's always complaining about that. And he's and so I think from the definition of my book only, not anybody else, he's one of the greatest players of all time. But I think if he had been more of a tournament golfer, I think he would have won 10 majors.
That's a great point.
Yeah, if he had the right. Yeah, I totally agree with that, to be honest. Sergio's a weird guy, in my opinion. He was never one of my favorite players because he always had that attitude. But I feel like if he changed that early on in his career, I 100% agree with you.
But I think to Mike's point, I think all of those things that make up the definition of a tournament golfer are where Sergio falls short, right? I mean, he's always complaining. It's always, people are out to get him.
That's why he's on live.
Talk Texas blasphemy here, but could you make that argument about Jordan? I mean, every time you see him hit a shot, he's just, oh.
He's always got commentary afterward. I would love, I mean, I don't know what's going on in his head. I know that, you know, as crooked as he hits the ball, he has to really be his own best friend. And he does not have time to go, oh crap, I hit it in the trees again. Because he's got to come up with a great shot to get back in the game. And he's obviously on the greens, you know, he is not focused on the result. He's rolling that ball in the hole, gets in the way more than most.
I want to say he holes out from off the green 1+ times around. It seems like it.
So
I'm
Mike,
not
what's the
Oh, my
number
bad.
one? What's the number one thing? First of all, we need you to tell everybody where they can find the book. You said it's on Amazon. I think, right? And
Yeah, I've got a website for the book too. That's easy. You can either go on Amazon and put in my name or the book's name. The website, which is tgplaybook.com, like tournament golfer, tgplaybook.com, has a lot of other stuff. It's got a lot of background material. It's got some of the Golf Channel interview I did and some of the podcasts, stuff like that. So there's a lot of great info on there. There's great links to other websites, and it's got my favorite button there. It says buy now. You can find that button, hit that button. So those are the two basic ways to get there.
so I would recommend they go on there, but then they buy it through Amazon to keep you at number one on the ratings there.
Well, the button will take you to Amazon. That's the that's the secret.
It's like getting podcast ratings, right, Alan?
Similar yet different, Andy.
Yeah.
You know what else? You know what else had good ratings this week, Andy?
Oh, I feel a segue coming on.
I think it was probably the Hero World Challenge.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, I think the big news is what's going to happen up maybe near me tomorrow. That's what I'm hearing is potentially Wednesday. There's a press conference in the USGA offices. Any thoughts on anybody? Chime in. We've had this conversation before. It may be imminent. Golf ball rollback.
Well, you know, I have an opinion on this, so
I think they're going to roll it back. I think they are. I can't imagine with all this, the quotes that have come out and hype about it, that they'd say, "Yeah, psych, just kidding." It's gonna happen. It's gonna be very weird. I can't really imagine what it's gonna feel like as I read about it. But I think it's gonna happen.
yeah, I mean, I believe that it's going to happen too. I think it's all been officially announced. And I stuck my stake in the ground on this when we first started talking about this. And I don't really have much sympathy for people complaining about this. I both on the amateur end and on the professional end, only because I think at the end of the day, there's a difference between the longest hitters and the shortest hitters, and that difference will still exist. It's just going to be graded down to a more manageable level, if you will. So, I mean, do I have any sympathy for people who are going to have to recalibrate, you know, how they, you know, kind of go about playing golf via the distance they're hitting their golf clubs? I mean, they're going to figure that out. That's not a big deal. The biggest question for me is what happens, you know, to the other dynamics of the golf ball? Is it purely a distance thing, or is it a spin thing as well? And if it is a spin thing in addition to just a distance standard, then that's going to affect things like golf club design. And so I think all that kind of remains to be seen, but I'm all for it because I just don't feel like, you know, it's unsustainable the way things keep going. And I think the regulations and standards up until now have been, you know, kind of been a workaround for the ball manufacturers. And, you know, here we are with people, you know, driving it an average of 320 yards. And like, again, we've talked about this before. I think it sticks in my mind, but I think in like 1980 or 1979, Dan Pohl led the tour in driving it like 279 or something like that.
We had Chip Beck on many moons ago, and Chip was telling a story about Augusta. He's walking off of I think it was 8. He's playing a practice round with George Archer, and Archer says, "See where that tee? See that up there? That's where the tee box is when I won." And their tee box was, this is in the mid 90s. Their tee box is another 60 yards back from there, and the tee box is even obviously much further back from that even nowadays. So there's no question about it. But at the same time, we also had this is where I disagree with. We also had the Billy Hurleys of the world that says we're seeing the true Tiger effect on tour, that athletes are coming to the game, and the athletes are playing at such a higher level. Tennis court doesn't change. Tennis court's the same, but the serves are faster.
Yeah, that Harry Higgs is such an athlete.
He is. He is indeed.
Well, my 2 cents is I haven't thought it through all the way, but honestly, I'm a tournament golfer and I'm there for the competition. And honestly, if they went to Hickory Shafts, I'm in. I just want to compete. I
Agreed.
just want to compete. If we're going to play down, hey, we're going to play I-10, the 2 left lanes down I-10, I'm in.
Yep.
So I don't think I think maybe for the senior golfers, I guess I am a senior golfer, who are hitting it, 200 off the tee, and they say it's a 5% hit. So 5% shouldn't make a monster difference for a higher handicap, really shorter hitter. So I guess I'm more on Andy's camp on this. I haven't thought it all the way through yet, but I think that I'm there to compete. So for me, just speaking for myself only, we go to Hickory Shafts and go play down the interstate. I'm in.
I'd like to see more spin put back into the ball, if anything. I mean, we all grew up with the baladas.
Yep.
I mean, you hit that offline, you hit it offline.
Yeah, we're going to get to hit it shorter and cricketer.
Christian, what's your take on this deal?
I don't think it's going to make a difference, to be honest. I mean, I think it for the guys on tour, I'm saying, I think it would, if anything, it would make a difference, to the senior tour, honestly. But you're talking about the Rory McIlroys of the world, the Dustin Johnsons of the world. It's not going to make a difference to them.
I think that's all relative though, because
yeah,
they're playing golf courses that are 7,400 yards, and the senior tour is playing golf courses that are 6,800, 6,900.
true.
So I think it's all relative, and at the end of the day, I think the one thing that people are failing to recognize is that it's the distances in golf. The distance phenomenon is not about the numbers as much as it's about the relativity of it. So if Mike Booker hits it 30 by me, it doesn't matter if he's hitting it 400 and I'm hitting it 370, or if he's hitting it 250 and I'm hitting it 220. Like that part, that's the thing that matters. It's the relativity of distance. And at the end of the day, a big smash drive when we were young growing up, went 250, right? I mean, that was a big drive when we were growing up. So does that mean we're better golfers now that we're hitting them 280?
Andy, back then I could turn my shoulders to 90 degrees. So
I think it's going to bring a lot of skill back though to these top players as well, if I'm being honest. Like, I think with the rollback, yes, it's going to bring back some sustainability, I think, to the game. And I also think that it's going to bring back a lot more of that skill, to be honest. So,
but how? I don't see.
Well,
that.
if they add spin to the ball.
If the spins on the ball, then yes, you may see the shot makers be reinvented. But right now,
I also kind of wish too that, like, if you're that good at playing on TV and you're that good to make $60 million a year, I would love them to just go buy a box of balls from Dick's, for example, play it right off the rack, go buy a Titleist set for that matter off the shelf, and not have all this custom stuff and that they have fit to their swing, and then just go see how good they truly. I'm not taking any discredit from any of these top players in the world, but
well, this is what Bobby was saying last night. Last week we were talking about the Ryder Cup, and he'd like to see a Ryder Cup played at a basic. Well, I'm not supposed to be played at Bethpage, but take them out to a non-prepped up golf course and see the good competition. Then I just look at it from from a golf course operator side. You got these people that are going to be out there. They're not going to want to move up a tee box. but now they're going to miss more greens because they're going to stay back there on the blacks and they're going to now hit it 5% shorter and they're not going to knock it on the green. It's going to take longer to time. I don't understand that.
The courses are gonna change. Like your black tee boxes won't be in the same place.
The courses are part of the problem. I'm gonna bust on some architects here. The architects and some of the problem with the distance game as it is right now. Because everybody, give me a 6,600-yard Donald Ross design, and then look at how it's lasted through history. And why did we need 7,200? Because everybody had to be bigger and better.
Well,
But
if it'll moderate bomb and
Yep.
gouge, I think bomb and gouge is kind of one of the worst thing that ever happened to golf, and that is,
I agree with
and that's distance at its core. And so, I guess if we could moderate bomb and gouge, I'd be for it. I'd do it. I think I like that aspect of it. I hope they don't try and, the hot word right now with all this is bifurcate. I hope they don't bifurcate.
no.
Well, the thing that I read was that they're not going to do that, but for a short period of time, I think 2 years. Like, I believe that the changes for the tournament players in USGA, tournament golfers, you hear that? And the USGA stuff would happen in 2028, and then for the general public in 2030 was what I read. So there might be a couple year period of bifurcation, but at the end of the day, I do not think that that's a great idea either. Bifurcation is.
I completely disagree with that. All I know is I'm going into the woods. I'm ball hawking like a mother, and I'm not putting $1 on them anymore. They're going to be up around $2, $3, $4 a ball.
So why are
they're
you in the
gonna-
woods?
What do you mean? Like, what do you
I'm
even
gonna
talking
go
about?
find all the the golf balls before they roll them back, and I'm gonna hoard them.
Yeah, you can
They're gonna
sell
be
them on the block, sell them at the
They're gonna
corner.
be Andy.
They'll be
Well,
collectible.
you know what, Alan? Back when you were a young lad, you could have been playing Spalding Molitors, which were not USGA legal. So
What were those?
I probably did.
so you've always had the opportunity to be the thief that you're talking about. So,
Dunlop Blue Dot.
Well,
yeah.
why are you going to look in the woods anyways, Alan? You hit the ball straight down the fairway.
Well,
He's trying
I
to
do.
help his other players.
I do, but I'm being entrepreneurial Christian and saying I'm going to go find golf balls that are juiced.
Yeah.
Whatever you
You know
say.
who look? I'll tell you what. You know who looked juiced? Andy, Tiger.
Mr. Woods.
Holy hell!
Yeah.
I mean, what
wow.
workout regimen is he on?
I don't know. He looked great though, to be honest. I mean, I'll get into my thoughts on Tiger in a second
Well,
because
let's ask
Andy
our
and I are in
guest.
the same category on this one.
Let's ask our guest panelist, Mike. What did you think of Tiger's performance this week?
It was kind of what I expected. I got tired of the hype all week long, and golf can't help it. And he does. I mean, my club repair guy said when Tiger played, he got more clubs, on Monday. It was unbelievable the impact he made. That being said, I played with Tiger when he was 16. He came to the Woodlands here in Texas to play in an AJGA tournament, and a friend of mine ran the tournament, so they had like a pro-am before it. And I had never heard of Tiger, which seems impossible that day ever existed. But I thought his name is Tiger. What is that all about? Anyway, I thought he was a great kid. He shot 68. He was in a bunker on the back nine. He was about 280 out on a par 5. And he said, "Mike, what do I hit here?" And I said, "Well, just hit a 3-iron up there and get it, because you're about 280." So he hit a 3-iron in the greenside bunker. And he's 16 years old. And I'm like, "Mike," he said something smart aleck, and I said, "Tiger, I'm sorry." I said, "I've never seen anybody hit a 3-iron that far." But I thought he was a great kid. But I didn't think he was a very good example, even before all of his problems with Elin. I didn't like him throwing clubs. I didn't like him cussing, and I thought he was kind of a bad example. I didn't like the fact that he didn't really hang around for autographs much, and so I thought he was a great kid. And as an adult, I just don't think he's been a really great example. I think he had a great opportunity at many different levels to be that great example, not just to help the game, not just be a bunch of us white guys, but also to be someone, and a lot of guys will tell you that Tiger's the reason they play golf, and a lot of tour players say that. So I know that's true, but I think his influence could have been, broader and wider and more positive, had he taken that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I think
Christian?
that's a great point.
It was average. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's what everybody probably expected from Tiger. I mean, I'm a firm believer, and I've said this for years since his injuries came out. I don't think he ever wins again. That's just my take. Obviously, people are going to disagree, and you can't bet against Tiger Woods, obviously, because he is Tiger Woods, right? But the problem that I have with him today is the fact that when he doesn't play well, he blames it on something. He'll blame it on I'm gassed, or I'm this, or I'm that, or whatever. And the course that he just played wasn't a super hilly course, and he's gassed by that. There's other courses, I'll take Augusta for that matter, where there's a lot of hills that he has to walk up. 11 is not an easy, I've never walked it, but like seeing it on TV, not an easy walk. He's done his time. He's one of the top 3 golfers of all time. Anybody would agree with that. I'm just saying for now, it's still good for the game if he plays, obviously, but I just don't think it's a realization of him ever winning a major for that matter, because he can't keep up with the Rory McIlroys today when healthy and playing well, the JTs of the world. Like, he can't, in my opinion, keep up with them. That's just my take. So.
Yeah, I think he's got the competition bug too, which is good. But I think in the spirit of Mike's book, he does have a lot of excuses a lot of the time. At the end of his first round, he got in front of the microphone. The first thing he said was, "I'm sore." What are you sore from? Like, you sore from playing golf? Because, like, this isn't your first round of golf in like 6 months or anything like that. You've been working your way up to this. But I mean, I just don't get it, where it's always something, but again, he's Tiger, and I love him. I love watching him play. But as you mentioned earlier, Alan, with Jordan Spieth yapping all the time on the golf course, Tiger's giving excuses all the time off the golf course.
Agreed. Leads right into Andy. Leads right into your live report.
My live report. Well, there seems to be a little chatter about one John Rahm being a done deal to live. And I was pressing our friend Christian this morning, who texted us. It's a done deal.
I saw it on social media.
What's
They're
that?
using that term. They're saying done.
It's saying
Only Christian was.
I've been reading a couple different sources, and it's saying that he is in extensive talks with Liv,
Yeah, for
upwards
sure.
of the $300 to $600 million range
Yep.
to go there.
Yep. And I've heard from some really reliable, like, in the know sources that it's done, like he's gone. So, but until it's official, it's not official.
I don't blame him for taking the money. I've said it for anybody that's gone to Live. I'm not a big fan of Live, but with that kind of money in front of you, I would say yes to it as well. But I think the PGA, if I'm being honest, this is a huge loss for them if they lost Jon Rahm. Big loss. Honestly, I said the same thing about Cam Smith when he left. This is bigger than Cam Smith. No offense to Cam. This is equivalent to them losing. I mean, if they lose John, I hope to God they don't lose Rory. I really hope they don't lose Scotty or the JTs of the world, because John was not a huge supporter of Liv when it first came out. And now they're flashing $100 million+ in front of him, and now he's going. I think this is a big scare for the PGA, and I think it's a big loss for them. Yeah, if he goes.
You have to ask the question, how much money do you need? You have to ask that question, because I think Phil and Cam Smith, all those guys, they've traded their legacy. In my view, it's how I feel. I may be proven wrong. If Liv goes more mainstream, but I think they're really throwing away their legacies in golf And if you're worth 300 million instead of 600 million, I don't know that that's a good trade-off.
We
don't
talked
disagree.
about that ad nauseum on this podcast, Mike, and I'm with you 100%. It's like, do I understand why some people would do it? If tempted, if I were in their shoes, would I do it? Probably. But at the end of the day, and Chris Stroud, you know, kind of a journeyman PGA Tour player, has a grievance with the PGA Tour because his bitch is that they're really catering too much to the small group of people that are making all the money. And you know what? He's right. He's right. I mean, like Phil, all of Phil's complaints and about the PGA Tour and about the way they're managing all of this, you know, purse money and all the extra money that they supposedly have. It's all about him. It's all about, you know, that top 30 players. So they want to pay those guys more money.
Well,
But again, and we've talked about that before. Like, when is enough enough?
I don't disagree. Their counter argument, those top 30 would be, we're the ones they're coming to see.
Well, that's true. I
Again,
mean, it's the oldest story in the world, you know, the
Yeah.
rich get richer idea.
yeah.
Yep. All right. We will find out if Mr. Rahm's on the hot seat after this, but Andy?
Mr. Booker is on
Mr.
the hot
Booker is on the hot seat.
Well, I just want to say right now, I'm not going to live.
Yeah.
Not for
Well-
600 million.
We're
No, Not
we
for
are
600 million.
this is the hot seat, but
Oh, great.
we're not gonna ask you your live plans.
Okay.
So it's only the warm
He
seat.
brings them at you fast and furious. So be ready, Mike.
I'm trying.
So okay, question number 1 on the Quiet Please hot seat. What's your lowest 18-hole score?
63.
63. What are your 3 favorite golf courses that you've played?
I love Pebble. I love Royal County Down. Well, I have a love-hate with Royal County Down, but I got to put it in your question as my answer. And then you know, I really like Sawgrass.
Oh, love Sawgrass.
Really love Sawgrass.
What 3 courses have you not played that you'd like to play?
I think I was fortunate enough to play Augusta. I got to play Augusta, so that was I checked that box off. As far as courses I wanted to play, I think some of the courses that were in the US, you know, US Open rotation, like I'm blanking out on some of the names.
Like Shinnecock,
Shinnecock's what I was
Marion,
trying to think of. I'd love to play Shinnecock, especially under a tournament condition, you know. And I'd love to. I have not played Cypress Point. I've had opportunities, and they both kind of got washed out. I'd love to play out there, and I'd love to go. I only played 9 holes at LA Country Club, and I would love to be able to. So that's a half answer. I'd love to be able to complete my round at LA Country Club.
This is like, what do you get the golfer that has everything question? Okay, so name the 3 best golfers of all time in no order.
Jack Nicklaus, Ben Hogan, Tiger Woods, in order.
Yep. Oh, excellent.
Nice. Like that list.
What's the best part of your game, Mike?
Best part of my game, on just the physical side, I would say probably driving. I drive the ball pretty straight most of the time. That's because of my short little flat swing.
I can attest to that. You do drive the ball well, and you still get it out there pretty good for a
Say it.
senior
Say it.
guy. A senior guy. So what skill is the most important to play good golf?
Well, you know, I would say you may be asking me like, you know, short game, right, or whatever, but I would say the skill is the number one skill you can possibly have to be a good golfer is to be your own best friend. Because there ain't nobody out there to set a pick for you to make an easy layup. There's nobody making a fabulous catch because the quarterback has thrown a crooked pass. It's all you, and it's lonely, it's solitary, it's tough. And so I think the number one thing you can have on your side is to be your own best friend.
Great. Okay, who's your favorite golfer, past or present?
Ben Hogan. I think he went through so much, and he was the ultimate, tournament golfer. He had no excuses for anything, and I just think that he went through so much, not just with the wreck, but when he, but when he was starting out, he almost, he had a flat tire. His first check he cashed, was like a $65 check, but before he cashed it, he had a flat tire on the way to the golf course, and that happens to all of us. I get that, but he was right there on the edge to have to come home to Texas and start working at a club or what have you. And I just think that nothing was handed to him. Byron Nelson was always favored over him at the club. If you read the Hogan books, so I really admire who he was on and off the golf course.
Right.
I got to interject one sec. So he was the traveling pro out of Country Club of Hershey. And when I was a member there and living out there, and there was an area on the golf course where he specifically practiced, and it was just a shoot of trees. And I could just picture Hogan out there in the 40s and 50s striping it.
I'm seeing him right behind you.
Yeah, my son's middle name, actually.
Nice.
My son's middle name is Palmer, so. Okay, I love this question. So quickly in your mind, describe the best golf shot you've ever hit, time, place, and situation.
Best golf I ever hit was actually pretty easy for me to answer. It was in the City Amateur, and I was playing against Pat Youngs it was the second hole of the playoff in par 3. They've switched 9 so many times over there, but it's the par 3, and it was playing pretty far back. Pin was back left, a huge drop off to the left. Pat hit a beautiful shot about 12 feet right below the hole, uphill putt. I tugged my 6-iron, hit on the left fringe, and went down a hill and just stayed short of the hazard. And I was probably, I don't even know, 25 feet below the hole, couldn't see the pin at all. And I carried a 67-degree wedge with me. I've been carrying a 64 for many years, but that week I actually had a 67. And I went down there, and Pat tells the story better than I do, but I just took a big slash at it, hit it straight up. I mean, it took about a minute for it to come down, and it came down a foot.
Wow.
And Pat said it was the biggest shock he'd ever had in his life. And, I ended up winning on the 2 holes later. But that shot at the moment, a City Amateur here in Houston is a pretty big deal, still is, and it was back then. To hit the shot that I had, it was kind of a stunner for Pat. And it happened at just the right time, because I was looking like this was going to, I was looking like he was going to make a 2 and I was going to make a 4. And to walk off with a tie was good timing.
Yeah, and for our listeners, that's the second hole, the old second hole in Memorial Park. Okay, last question. What do you cherish the most about the game of golf?
What I cherish about the game of golf is what it's really taught me about me. That's what I really cherish. It teaches me a lot about others that I play with and how they act. And I can tell how they're going to be in the boardroom by how they act on the golf course. And that's valuable and that's good. But really the most valuable thing to me in golf is that, of course, it gives me a vehicle to compete, and I love to compete, but it's what it's really taught me about me. And then golf's taught me a lot. I said at the end of the book, golf really teaches you how to handle the curveballs that life throws at you better than anything else I can think of. So I love what it's taught me about me, and the resiliency that it forces you, to stand and deliver or get run over. And if you get run over, you got to get back up, and golf teaches you all of that. And I'm forever grateful to the game for that.
That's awesome. So our 19th hole question, very simple. How many holes in one do you have?
2.
2.
But I will say they were both in competition. So I got that going for me. And one was a walk-off, was a shotgun tournament. And I convinced the guy to press me. And and the guy who was
Nice.
they were paying the low medal that day. and the guy had a 3-stroke lead on me on that hole, and I threw it in the hole. We heard it hit the pin, so I thought, oh, it probably went in the lake. We couldn't see what it did, and he had a 3-stroke lead, and I made it 1, and he was so shook up he 3-putted, so we tied for medal, and I won the press.
Nice.
But that's about as far as I can take it. 2 is the answer. In fact,
That's awesome.
I don't think I've even come close in the last, I don't even know, 5-10 years. No, almost.
That's awesome. Well, you survived the back 9 of the Quiet Please podcast, the hot seat.
And we are on the 18th green, Mr. Nazamus. Final thought.
It's been a while since I've said it, but please, everyone, continue to follow us on this awesome journey that we're on. I know I've been distant, but now I'm coming back full time, moving forward. All right, the schedule's open up, so I get to see all of these young studs' face here on my left, at least, and hopefully Mike can come back and join us, because I can listen to Mike talk all day long. So I'll personally thank you for coming on and sharing some of your stories as well as your book. I'm definitely going to have to buy that, because it looks like an amazing read.
Well, thank you.
So yeah, just continue to follow us on social media, guys, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll make sure to obviously be posting this in the coming days, and just continue to follow us on this journey, because we have a lot of great guests coming on as well. So that's my final thought.
Mike, would you like to add one?
I would. Thanks so much for having me, guys. It was very fun. If any of your listeners if they get the book and they have any questions, they can go to that website, tgplaybook.com, and you can email me there. And I promise to get back to you within the same day. And that's been one of the most fun things. I've been getting emails from all over the world. About 20% of the book sales have been overseas. So that's, I don't know why, but that's been fun too. So thanks so much for having me. I'd love to come back. You name it, I'll be here. If you get desperate enough to get me back, I'm in.
Andy?
Well, it's been great having Mr. Booker on tonight. I'm happy to be able to compete with him and call him a friend. He is truly as good off the golf course as he is on. So thank you for coming, Mike. I want to touch on, of course, the LIV thing again, just briefly. We talk about all the rumors and what's happening, and Jon Rahm going, and it pauses you to think for a second. And for me, it starts to kind of open up the shades to what could be, like, what could this become? Because Jon Rahm is a pretty significant name. He's arguably the most significant golfer that's made the move over. You can argue DJ, but it makes you wonder, like, at the end of the day, golf could go the way of other sports, where you have, these leagues playing here and there, and then you have the ultimate competitions, being the majors, being played, and maybe that's what golf ends up being, is certain tours and organizations playing off to the side, and some are going to be more compelling than others. But at the end of the day, it's the Masters, the US Open, the Open Championship, and the PGA Championship, and throwing a couple of other events across the globe, I think that are also pretty significant. And would that be the worst thing in the world? No. Would it be the worst thing in the world for the PGA Tour? Yes. But for golfers, for golf fans, I don't know. I don't think that would be, such a terrible thing to have come out of this whole Saudi PIF deal.
I've got multiple real quick. Mike, really appreciate you coming on. Great chatting. Anybody that can beat Andy down in Houston, I love chatting with people that can beat Andy. Andy, I've heard this all about the venues, to answer your question about LIV. That's what I've always been told. But speaking of LIV, they had big news. I don't know if you guys saw, there was a trade. Carlos Ortiz was traded for, is it pronounced David Puig?
That is a blockbuster. That's like Shohei Ohtani.
that trade was just consummated. Like, it was like literally in the last 6 hours. I just saw it come across. But my final thought is really actually about a feel good story. I'm rooting for him. John Smoltz has an opportunity, finishes in the top 5 at the Champions Tour qualifier to get his Champions Tour card. I think that's awesome to put in the work after playing professionally baseball, and I'd look forward to seeing him succeed or someone else. We'll see.
That's a great story.
Mr. Hydorn, Mr. Booker, Mr. Nazamus, it's been a pleasure. Till next week. Oops, wrong button. Wrong button again.